miserable evening. Kind of a lousy day today.
Kind of.
But it's West Coast, right? So I get used to it. Anyway, I'm Cameron, and I'm the artist on my work on the, well, left-hand side, because I'm facing the front of the gallery. I guess a little bit about myself. I have been working in the arts field since probably the late 70s. I always felt, even in high school, that I was more of the creative type. I painted and did a lot of photography in high school. And then when I graduated, I wasn't sure if that's what I wanted to do and make a living at it. So I worked for a number of years, and then I went back to college and found my calling. So I had my first solo show in 1981 in Hamilton, and it featured street scenes. But I realized at that time, after working for 8 months and having a show and selling most of the work, that it wasn't going to support me. Because I was new at it, and I guess my work wasn't selling at exorbitant prices, I was basically selling what the gallery was recommending I sell my work at. And so I realized then that I would have to supplement my work or get another job. So I basically became a graphic designer. So that's what I did for probably 20 years before I came back to my art. Now, my first series was street scenes. And I traveled around Hamilton and found areas that I really liked to paint. And those were usually areas that were painted or falling apart or something that a little bit raw and off kilter, and those kinds of things attracted me. So I don't know. There's something about that area of town or those scenes that just called to me. It said something to me about humanity, I guess. Well, in the next 20 years after that, and being a graphic artist, I found different things that appealed to me. And some of those things had to do with existentialism. That's kind of a philosophy of how we find ourselves as humanity. The question is why we're here. And I guess that's the kind of a big question that we all think about once in a while, whether we're religious or not. Even if we're scientific, I guess we always have that question of what drives and what takes us places. So when I got back into my art, I guess in the early 2000s, I started working from life drawings. And there was something about drawing from life and the figure that really brought me back to something. And I don't know what it was, but something called me from the figure, and I thought, I can do something with these. So my first series with the figure was called Saints in Underwear, and again, it was a way of seeing how the physical and the corporeal and the spiritual sort of melded together. And I'm still working on it, and part of the reason that this series has come about is because it's still the question. It's still about why we're here. And so this particular series that I did with Arlene, she asked, she had this title in mind, or subject line called Body and Soul. And I had done a piece a year ago, and I put on it Body and Soul, and I thought, well, that would fit with this theme. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to keep going with it. I'm going to find that spiritual and the physical, to find that soul. I mean, when we talk about soul, I think we have different names for it. Some people say psyche, or some people say spiritual, but soul sort of encompasses that as well. And whether you're religious, or whether you believe in that we're not just pure physical beings, that there's an energy there, I think there's something that speaks to us outside our physical being. So I had an idea many years ago. I had taken some photographs when I was in college that I never really did anything with. And I always liked the poses, so I thought I could incorporate them into a series of paintings or photographs. And that's what sort of brought this series about. So I use the photographs and I basically put energy into them, as if, for a better word. Now my process, where you can see it's painting, but I like to add things to my paintings, found objects, words. I like gold. Because I'm dealing with the spiritual, I tend to put gold in these pieces because I think there's a relationship between the spiritual and gold, kind of that reflective value that we don't. I guess it gives it a different take on things. So I'll start with this piece. This is actually some, I guess, recycled pieces that I found, and I wanted to do something with them. And again, using my photographic series, I printed some images on translucent stock, and then I printed another set on transparency, so they're sandwiched in between. And this set, I actually found some LED lights and made this little backlit template, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. Now this is kind of I would say it's more like stained glass, if you want to call it that, although it's not glass. But that's the idea. And for each piece, I actually wrote a poem as well, so they relate to the piece as well as to where I am in my thought process. This is probably the oldest piece in the show, and this didn't come from the same series as the photographic series, but it kind of fits with the series that I'm doing now, which is the body and soul. Again, this is a long poem I wrote for it. It relates to the body and time and how we see ourselves, I guess, aging, and our place in society, our place in the scheme of things, and it has that moment of distress, because I feel that if we look at where we're going as humanity, there are some concerns, and so that kind of relates to the concerns we have as humanity. But I still believe that as a species we can overcome that if we find our spiritual path. I think this speaks to that as well. The other pieces going down, again, these are...
I wonder if you would just read those two lines out loud.
You want me to read the two
Yeah,
lines?
I'd love to hear it out loud.
I run it through my head continuously. Mobius moments are the years, the months, the days in between subjugation and anarchy. We burn through the forests, let the birds fall before us. Smug without compassion, we move on, disparate and plumbing for footholds. That was the beginning of the poem, and I realized that I couldn't fit the whole poem on there. So I had to make a choice whether to leave just the two lines on there or try and put another panel and fit all the poetry on there. And I think it's fine the way it is. As an artist, you make decisions at some point during your creative process that you have to stop or leave things alone and not make a mess of it. So I kind of liked it the way it stood out. This is this pink ribbon is actually a Mobius loop. Although if you're familiar with the Mobius loop, that's sort of part of it. This blue jay here happened to be a blue jay. I walked out of my house one day and found a dead blue jay on the ground. And before I buried it, I thought I would immortalize it in my paintings. It's actually painted there, and it ties in with the poem as well. And I think what I find when I write the poetry too, that as I'm doing the painting or just before I do the painting, the words come to me. And they form a lot of the basis for the visual of the work. Or sometimes it's actually the other way around, and I will do the work and the poetry comes after. So it's I don't always know how it's going to come. And I'll just get a line of poetry that comes to me, and then it just carries on. It has its own voice, right? It doesn't seem always to be my voice, but it comes anyway. So I just let it come. The other thing about energy and spirituality is that we find that, at least for me, that we have centers in our body that have energetic levels. So there are chakras that are kind of depicted in terms of color in some of these pieces. So the chakras play a part in the paintings, as well as alchemy. These 4 panels represent 4 steps of the alchemical process, although there's 7 steps in total. I only had 4 panels, so I just used 4 steps. And again, they all tie in to energy. And the process, again, is I will see things, and they end up into the painting. The one behind you with the stripes, I had an idea for that one. It had to do with the code, and so those stripes actually are like a UPC code, but the letters themselves represent DNA code. So if you look at a DNA code, the letters are C, G, T, and A, and they usually there's usually a couple numbers that are involved with that, a 3 and a 5. I didn't have a 5, so I used a 4 and a 1. Again, you make them as you go on. And I had found these little gems, and I thought they would fit with the image as well. So it's kind of a spiritual infusing the physical with the DNA and the UPC. So it's kind of a coding idea on that. And the far one, that was actually, I had done a couple small abstracts, and I thought I'd do a large one, and it didn't work at all. So I wanted to make something out of that panel. So I incorporated it into the series, and I basically drew a figure on top, one of the body poses, and painted over top. So it's in charcoal and basically strips of colored canvas. So that is my process and thoughts. Does anybody have any questions?
I was looking at the bird and the arrows.
Right.
And some you have directional marks in some
I
of the...
I do have arrows in some of my pieces.
Yeah. Want to talk about that? Or is there anything you can say?
I see arrows as a depiction, again, of energy. So it's energy going out or energy coming in. In this case, because the bird is dying, it's the dissolution of the body. So it's the energy going as the body decays, right? So it's the energy sort of falling inwards. And then that one again it's the energy coming out of the solar plexus. So that
Right.
it's a different it's different kinds of energy. Each chakra represents different values and different colors.
I was thinking this one is the crown and the sacral.
That's crown and the sacral chakra. So you have the orange and
Right.
and the purple.
Yeah.
But it also represents, because of the, if you understand, if you know the way the energy moves through the system, you have hot and cold channels that come through the spine. So it's fire and ice. There is if you've ever experienced an opening of the Kundalini, and that's what it feels like. You have, I can feel it now. You can feel the energy flow up your spine and flow back down. You can feel that heat and coolness. It's quite amazing. So because I work with energy as well, I'm a Reiki master, so I have a little bit of understanding of energy and how it works in the chakras. And it all ties in together with what I'm doing now. So I don't know if I have much more to say with these body series. I may go somewhere else after this, but I think I really enjoyed doing what I'm doing right now with pieces. And one thing I don't see is a lot of people doing the same kind of work, so I'm glad that at least I can put something out there that is at least new to people. They can see something they haven't seen before. Yes.
I mean, your drawing is really strong. How do you draw regularly, or?
I don't draw as regularly as I used to, but I did do a lot of life drawing. And you find that when you start doing the life drawing, you get to see the flow of the body and the rhythms and how things come together. So even when I'm drawing, even if I draw from a photograph or something and I'm doing it freehand, I can always find that there's something just doesn't quite there, right? There's something off. So I think it trains your eye, and that's your eye and hand is very important. And when you're training yourself as an artist or learning over the years, just to draw what you see and not what you think you see, right? That's the hardest part to escape, because we all fall into that trap thinking that we're seeing something, but we're not really looking. And so I try to make sure that I really look at what I'm doing and not just thinking that I'm seeing something that isn't there.
Speak about yourself. A little bit about the image. It's unusual, and the way you use the color and drips.
Yeah, that was for the selfie show in the summer, but I wanted to put it in here as well. Again, I enjoy working on panel, and I've had this collection of pieces of canvas. So the idea for that one was basically the coming into yourself. So the black and white image is kind of the background, and then the color is how as you merge. So I wanted to sort of present that idea as a merging person, right? As you're coming into your own thoughts, and I put I am here, but it's I'm actually here, not there. So it is interesting, but it was just a thought process, and the reason you see the drips come down is I was thinking of how color would seep into the black and white. So we tend to think of black and white as kind of like a flat, and the color is sort of adding dimension to it. So that was the idea behind that, sort of giving dimension to the flatness of the body or the face in black and white.
And it has a feeling to me of one side is a little bit fierce, and the other side is quite innocent.
It could be that. I mean, people will have different interpretations.
Yeah, I know. They do. People do have different ideas. It just gives you a little bit of that feeling.
Anything else?
Cameron, when I was here in the gallery, I really liked the bathroom series. What you did there, it's brilliant because it's familiar, but nobody's done it that I knew. You know, to lie on the floor, to figure it out with the camera, and have that incredibly graphic background.
Yeah, to put yourself under the camera and try and squeeze into the frame without
It's
knowing where
very
you
raw.
are. Yeah, that was before you could see yourself. Selfies, right? You had to guess.
You're beautiful.
Anything else?
Speak about the one that's down.
The one that's at the end? Well, that one is actually quite different in terms of, I should actually look it up. This one is, it is a little bit different. It's more of a, almost more of an abstract painterly kind of, well, they're all kind of painterly, so probably. This relates to the solar plexus as well. So that's the power center, and so the hands over the power center, so it's kind of protecting itself. And you can see the color, the orange, coming out. I had an idea for this one that actually it was about floating in space, and I was originally going to hang it that way.
The other way, the other way.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Just to give a different perspective, and I'm not sure that I can still hang it either way, but I wanted something bright, colorful, and at the same time I wanted to complement it against the black background. And I was thinking of a star child, almost, in that respect. And so it's the power of the solar plexus protecting itself. It's I don't even know how to describe it really. You know, when you go to do something, you're an artist, and you just do it. And it feels right, and you don't always know why. So this is one that I could probably sit with and come up with another theory of why it is the way it is.
The dots behind it are really reminiscent of that series behind you where the pegboard, all kind of the pegboard.
Yeah, well, the idea, I mean, some of it was because of the background on the photograph series was the tile floor. It was black and white, so this is kind of a different take on that. So it's putting that into space as a different kind of a space, more of a literal translation of space.